Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Four Mothers of the Women's Spirituality Online Resource Center. I'm your hostess, Vajra and the curator of this resource center. Today, we're going to be speaking with Brooke Medicine Eagle. First, I would like to give a context for our interview, our discussion with Brooke. Women's spirituality emerged as a major component of what's called the second wave of feminism. That emergence of women's spirituality took place in the 1970s and 1980s. But many people today do not know about these courageous foremothers of women's spirituality. They were courageous, radical women, and by radical, I mean they went to the root. They developed or rediscovered or carried through authentic spiritual experiences and practices beyond the boundaries of patriarchal religion. These feminists, they followed their passion, their convictions, and they built upon a growing scholarly body brought through ancient traditions. Connect us with the nature and female-honoring spirituality that preceded the past 6,000 to 10,000 years of patriarchal father gods. The Four Mothers, along with many other feminists, pioneered a diverse spiritual orientation that is based in respect, reverence, and relationship with all. The Four Mothers of that emergence are not only historically significant, but they are still, many of them, working today and bringing forth their vital work, as is Brooke Medicine Eagle. And that is why this resource center was created, to provide an historical overview via personal testimonies and the recollections of the formative first 2 decades of the women's spirituality movement, and to learn about the presence of this ongoing work today. So we're inviting you to meet these women on the Online Resource Center, now in the form of taped interviews, with additional interviews and resources to be expanded as time goes on. Our interview today with Brooke Medicine Eagle is taking place in the year 2018. And before we start talking with Brooke and she starts sharing her wisdom with us, I'd like to read her bio. Brooke Medicine Eagle is an earth keeper, healer, visionary, singer-songwriter, and shamanic practitioner and ceremonial leader. She is the author of the Native American literary classic, Buffalo Woman Comes Singing, and of The Last Ghost Dance. Over the last 40 years, her music, recordings, teachings, writings, and conference appearances, and spiritual wilderness retreats have touched the hearts and minds of people all over the world. Her current focus is on health and empowerment for women. Decades ago, she brought forward ancient native traditional ways of moontime and women's mysteries for women's health, spirit, leadership, and service to the world. Brooke is also a sacred ecologist with a focused interest in living in a harmonious, sustaining lifestyle, as well as dedication to the preservation of our sacred waters. Her presentations under the title Blossoming into Harmony promotes a heart-centered, ecologically sound healing way for the flowering of Mother Earth and all our relations. Brooke is now traveling and teaching internationally, enjoying the experiences of being a world citizen. Brooke Medicine Eagle, thank you so much for being here and welcome.
Well, I'm very happy to be here and I'm really honored. Thank you so much.
Well, I am honored to have you here, and it's going to be a rich journey to hear about the wisdom that you have been carrying for so many years. I'd like to ask you first, how did you step onto this sacred path?
Well, it was very interesting. When I was young, I was raised in a half-breed rancher culture, and our native ways were not practiced, partly because they were actually federal offense illegal until 1972 or 3 when the Indian Freedom of Religion Act was practiced. So I came out to California and began connecting into the wave of awakening of peaceful, earth-centered, and native kind of ways. And on the way there, I had been called by a vision into connection with this work. So my early process was to connect back deeply into the spirituality of my people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
how did you do that, through vision, or how else did you do that? How did that connecting in happen for you?
By a wonderful long story that I tell about in Buffalo Woman Comes Singing, I ended up back connected to a wonderful Cheyenne medicine woman. They called her the woman who knows everything, and she was the keeper of the Sacred Hat Lodge, which was a buffalo kind of skull and horns that represent for the Cheyenne people the nurturing and renewing power of the feminine. Mm. They have another bundle, 7 arrows, that represents the masculine. Mm-hmm. So immediately, Spirit took me to this feminine representation. And grandmother didn't know what to do with me because I'm Crow. That's my dad's people, and I lived there and was born there. And her people are Cheyenne, and they're old time bitter enemies. They were on opposite sides of the fight in many of the early days. So she didn't know quite what to do with me, and she sent me to the mountains. She sent me to the land. She sent me to Spirit. And so she set me up on the mountains to Vision Quest. And I did a series of 4, starting with one time she sent me up just for a day to begin things, and I had an amazing happening then. Then a year later, a day quest without water. A year or so later, another quest, 2 days, another 3, and the final one on Bear Butte was 4 days on the mountain without food or water. Oh. And what was interesting about those, and I want to tell you a bit about the vision that happened on Bear Butte. This amazing woman came to me several times, dressed, I called her Rainbow Woman because she had beads all over the top of her dress, and they just threw rainbows even in the moonlight. But when I had the major vision I was sitting there a ways down Bear Butte, and there's a trail that goes on up the mountain to the very top. And I looked up, it was evening, and I looked up, and coming down off of that trail were lights, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down and down and down, filling that trail with lights. And they walked, and I could see those lights coming. And when they came closer to me, I saw that they were grandmothers. They were ancient women dancing and singing their way down. And they circled me and sang. And then in the center, there would be Grandma Josie stands near the fire, the woman who knows everything. There would be she and my other teachers, native teachers, and we'd be dancing, 7 of us swirling and dancing in the center. And then contemporary women, young women that were on a spiritual path like me, and my Cheyenne mom, who wasn't much older than me, and all of us dancing and dancing. And finally, a dove came into the center, and the youngest girl there caught it on her hand, and then with this amazing energy threw it into the sky and sent the teachings away. And
beautiful. That is beautiful. I saw it as you were describing it, Brooke. Absolutely beautiful, powerful.
Thank you. And when this Rainbow Woman, who I now think of as White Buffalo Woman, came to me again, when she taught me, she didn't say things to me in a normal way. She fed me through my womb. I felt this whole, download, in modern words, going into my belly, into my womb. And so I think those teachings have come out more and more. They drift up and into my consciousness and into my throat and into my speaking, even now. So anyway, the essence of that vision was that the feminine is of vital importance and literally will be, if you will, the saving of the world.
Yes.
And I was very young. I was 20-something, just kind of touching back into all of this and busy getting a PhD in San Francisco besides that. And I know that I didn't even know close to the depth of what I had heard. I didn't, and I think many of us didn't understand what the deepest meaning of that was about the arising of the feminine. And so I know that's what we'll be sharing about. But what was interesting as well, and many people may have experienced this in one way or the other, is that Grandma Stands Near the Fire had been taken to the missionary schools. She had been battered and abused so badly and made to not speak her language, told that they were superstition and all these awful things, that when she got away from there, she swore never to speak English in her life again. And she didn't. She understood it. And one time when she was surprised, she said an English word. But literally, she did not speak to me. I did. Cheyenne is a very difficult language. I didn't know it. And so our communication was through my Cheyenne stepmom. So it wasn't like she could teach me the subtleties of anything. It was for me to learn. It was from my spirit. She gave me to spirit and to Mother Earth. And so I'm just now really understanding more and more and more of what was given. And what was kind of fascinating. What was kind of fascinating was then, of course, I was in San Francisco. It was the burgeoning, blossoming of consciousness in so many ways. It was like, amazing teachers and all of this. I mean, I was just young. It's like, oh my gosh, Fritz Perls and all of these people were there, just amazing people doing incredible things, and the whole hippie revolution and all of that. So when I stepped into that world, there were two things in a way. One, I didn't really understand the feminine hardly at all myself. I had been raised on a ranch. I'd been raised with a mother who worked hard in the fields and wasn't in many senses very feminine. She was a wonderful mother, but not very feminine. So that was one thing. And two, I was just very different, and I looked at things very differently from the teachings I'd been given. And so in the modern, well, I don't want to call it feminist. I don't know how to say it, but when things started awakening in San Francisco, women were taking back their power. One of the challenges that happened was that, as I say, some of the women felt you could put in a Tampax, put on a pair of pants, and go to work and act like a man, and that was women's power. It's not women's power. And of course, I was a little mouthy about that, and I wasn't in great favor with many of the feminists, I don't think, because I didn't know. I mean, I would freely admit, I don't know exactly what the feminine is. I don't know these deep teachings, but I do know it isn't that. So I think we started out in some ways trying to find power, excuse me, in the patriarchal model. Of course, that's what we've been given. How would we know any different? The teachings, the great mother's teachings, the great mother's presence, the great creatrix of all life, her presence was suppressed and repressed. And maybe that needed to be to play out something else. But we're starting into a very different time now. But anyway, I was kind of, I wasn't one of the groovy goddesses in San Francisco. I didn't connect in that way. So it was very interesting to carry these teachings, but yet have such a different perspective. And I didn't even know the power of what I had. Eventually, a very amazing shamanic presence in my life gave me the ancient teachings about the moon time. In the introduction, you said that I put, 25, 30, 35 years ago, I put out this information about the moon lodge, the red tent, how important that is and how powerful that is. And, that came from the ancient teachings, but I hadn't had those as a young woman. Those came, and then I had the opportunity to offer those and realized in doing that what an incredible loss we had taken as women by not understanding the mysteries of our moon time and the power, health, beauty, service, leadership that can come out of that. So
I took a workshop with you back in the early 90s. You probably don't remember. We didn't know each other then. And I remember something you said. It has stuck with me ever since. And it was on the moon time you were teaching. And you said, it's too late to work in ordinary ways. We need to work with our moon blood. And there was something in that was so compelling to me, that there are ways to work with the moon blood, with women's menses, with the cycle, with the blood itself, that goes beyond ordinary ways of making change in the world. So you were teaching that way back then, and I really appreciate your moontime teachings. I interrupted you a little bit. I want you to get back to the track you were on about what are the moontime teachings. And the women listening to this and the men listening to this interview need to understand that more, how important that is. Would you please share what that is about?
Well, I can mention it briefly, and it's a whole long teaching, and I want to share with people that I do have a 4-part series on my website that they can listen to the whole story of that and get all the teachings about the menarche, the young woman's ceremony, moon time, the moon lodges we meet in, and the grandmother Moonpaw's lodge. But the thing that has the thing that's so important to remember is that the real big magic in human form is the ability of women to bring through, to allow Creator to make life in their bodies. That's always been the big magic. It's been amazingly, mind-blowingly obvious to everyone when they watch children being born and all of that. It didn't matter so much where it came from. It's like, wow, this is life happening right here. And that was the big magic. And part of it was as well that those people lived on the earth. They knew the Great Mother. They knew the Great Mother Creatrix as Mother Earth, as the soil and the changing of the seasons and all of that. So there was very much more of a connection with all of the feminine. And in the most enlightened societies, women were given 4 days. They weren't given, they took 4 days to go into their moon lodges to do their sacred work. And as you know, day to day, women's life, especially with children and things like they had in the old days, pretty much everyone, they were busy. They were handling everything, just like women today are handling that and more, and an outside job and. They were handling so much, it was 24/7. So the grandmothers and the younger women and the men themselves took care of things for 4 days, while the women, the bleeding women, the moon women, went into their lodges, and they did 2 things there, at least. One, they relaxed, rested, quieted, got to lay down without being bothered, eat simple, nourishing, blood-building foods the grandmothers provided, just rest and heal. And that is so, so important. Stress is pressing against women, and we're losing women by the hundreds and thousands. And so taking that time to de-stress, to be nourished, and to be cared for, and to be quiet was important. The second thing that happened is probably in the next 2 days. I mean, I can imagine the gals laying around on beautiful pillows and furs, and just they probably didn't even talk that much. They get to talk all the time because they're working together all the time. So that quiet and sweetness. And then last 2 days, I have a sense either that space or perhaps another inner sanctum was a place where they went and meditated in silence for 2 days. And a woman bleeding at the dark of the moon, which is when your body naturally bleeds if you're in cycle with the earth and the moon, a woman bleeding at the dark of the moon, quieting herself and listening, the veil between her and the great mystery, is the thinnest of any time it ever is in human form. There's the closest connection. I think that's so powerful to get. The closest, most open, clear connection with that great, great mother creator life is then. So women listening deeply brought forward visions, discoveries, maybe you could call them inventions, a new way to make a pot to hold water, whatever it might have been. Then when they came out of their moon lodge, they brought those things or messages. They were told about the coming of the white men, that there would be silver birds flying in the sky, networks of spider webs across the land that are obviously all the wires we have. And those came to women in their moon lodges. So that was service to their world. And they came out as leaders. And they were deeply, deeply instilled with spirit, because once the moon time started, 13 times a year they vision quested. 4 days, or 2, you might even say, at least. 13 times. 26 the second year, 39 the third year, 52 the fourth year, and it goes on and on. So talk about developing a deep, deep, deep spirit, and being with women who had done that for 25, 30 years. Wow.
Yes.
Now,
Wow.
there we're talking some power. And coming out of that wisdom, the highest of native cultures and all primary cultures understood that the grandmothers were the power. They were the ones who were in charge of the nurturing and renewing of all life. And so in some tribes, they were even able to depose chiefs if that chief was not serving the people, if he was not taking care of them, food-wise, energy-wise, war-wise, peace-wise, whatever. They were able to depose and bring forward someone else. So those kind of things, that's a quickie. I really invite you to listen to the 4 hours of the teachings, because they're so important.
Absolutely, yes. That information and contact information for you will be in text accompanying the interview here, and people will be able to access that. But you painted such an essential picture, such a powerful picture just there, Brooke. I appreciate it so much. What can... we don't gather like that. I get a picture of how much we have lost, and as you said before, how tremendous the loss is. How can we, in today's modern world, get in touch with that? We don't bleed collectively. We don't come into moon lodges together. What do you suggest that we do?
Well, if we're going to get, to touch into that kind of power, we're going to have to do those things. We really need to get that hormonally we're set up to work together, to be together, to put our minds and hearts together to make a difference for all our people. And so women need to understand that in order for them to create oxytocin in their bodies, one of the powerful ways, oxytocin is what gives you a feeling of, my life is good, I feel good, and I feel supported, I feel nurtured, I'm ready to go, just that wonderful kind of feeling. That oxytocin comes powerfully into our bodies as we come together with other women to work and to be and to, even if we're hanging out after work and having coffee or a cocktail, anytime we come together with a focus on what's positive, oh my gosh, we get such good energy. So all of that is what we need to move forward to. Because one of the interesting things is that when about 93 or 95, I believe, the Hopi elders and the Mayan elders, primary people all across North and South America and probably around the world, handed the wands of power to the females. They literally handed these staffs to the grandmothers and said, it is your time now. It is the time of the feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's just amazing is that how many years ago was that? Where are we now? It's been, 10, 20 years, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
in a cycle. Well, the patriarchal cycle was probably 6,000 years. So, I mean, guess what? We are like 20 years into this rising feminine energy. So what's fascinating is that each and every one of us females are the foremothers of this rising, rising, rising time of the feminine. We are the new beginning. And some of us, as you said in the introduction, have been more aware of that for 20 years or more. But all of us are now becoming aware of this awakening feminine. And I'd like to talk about that a bit as well.
Oh, please do. Please do.
So, about 6,000 years ago, horsemen rode into the matrifocal cultures of Europe, bringing their guns and their war and their patriarchal, sun-oriented gods to a culture that had been matrifocal, focused on mothers, children, nurturing, caring for, egalitarian, amazing cultures. So 6,000 years ago, that changed for some reason in the great cycle of things. That patriarchal, masculine, sun-oriented energy came on the earth, religion and otherwise. And so we've been living in that. It's interesting that we as women have had to live in the last intensity of that period, of that kind of suppression of the feminine and all of those things that came with that at its worst.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are, and in some lovely, very powerful and profound way, the time has changed. It's shifted to a new time. And that new time is the rising. I think of it as this great, amazing, voluptuous goddess of Willendorf, yum, warm, loving energy coming up from the earth, from being suppressed and hidden and resting, coming powerfully up, rising up out of the ground, out into, literally into the feet and bones and into the bodies of everyone, and certainly women. And so that energy is rising. And one of the things, I'm pretty old and I am told I'll live a lot longer, and I hope so much that I can see the positive and beautiful world that I vision come true. It's been a little shocking to me to see the kind of things that have been happening in Europe, Britain, here in the United States, politically, energetically, this intense, angry, inflamed, patriarchal energy just blossomed to this flame, you might say. And that shocked me tremendously. But when I listened to my deepest teachers, the great goddess herself, I think, she says it had to just flame up and just blow up in your face, because you cannot pretend it isn't happening. It needs to be seen and it needs to be cleansed. It cannot be buried. It cannot be ignored. It cannot be denied. It needs to be, I just see her just rising up, and with her, everything, including the stuff that's so hard to see. And so, cleansing, the clearing. I tell you, my prayers these days, may the cleansing move gracefully, sweetly, easily, and quickly.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
And what's fascinating to me is that yesterday I hiked a very high mountain here. And at the top, vultures were flying and a hawk. And when I got to the very last place, a vulture feather was there waiting for me. And I love the vultures. I understand who they are, and I love their flying. And, you know, my eagle nature loves that high highest peak, flying breeze, all of that. But until I was thinking about the interview today, I didn't realize why I'd been given this. And it's to remember to say to all who are listening that the cleansing right now is so vitally important. The vulture's medicine is the vulture descends to earth to eat up death, to eat up the rotting, death, destructive kind of things and turn them into life, into wings, great wings that fly high. So that's vulture medicine, and that's what's needed right now, is to clean up, to see, to shift, transform, compost all of that old negative energy.
Thank you. Brooke, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just want to say thank you for that vision, for that understanding, for putting into perspective for us the inflamed patriarchal anger, rage, and violence that is happening around the world, and that it had to come up in order to see it, not deny it, and to deal with it, and to cleanse it. That is a powerful vision and teaching. And I just wanted to take a moment and take that in myself, because that is very encouraging, because people were feeling such distress at what is going on. And you're bringing through the vision and the words of the great goddess, of the great mother, that is guiding us through that. And you're bringing that through, and I really appreciate that. I'm really taking that in. Yeah.
Well, I think the thing for each of us to remember is that every act, every moment, are choosing to be non-judgmental, caring, nurturing, renewing of life, and we can be fierce, but we can also be gentle and loving, and all of that is the feminine. And so whether we're teaching our children about the great feminine, nurturing, birthing, creating wonderful energy, or whether we're stepping out into the street in a peaceful demonstration that says, we will not put up with this anymore. Whatever we're doing. And I think sometimes the momentary things, it's so easy to judge. And the great Dawn Star teacher says, judgment is the worst, is the lowest energy we can have. And just to say, whew, there but for fortune go I. Who knows what their story is and what their karma is and what they're learning and doing with this life. I am not to judge. I am only to bless and send love. And it's especially important for us. It's so easy to just get totally, I'm going to say it, pissed off about what's going on and just angry. However, we can be that and clear it and pound pillows or whatever we need to do, but the energy we need to bring forward into the world, though fierce, needs to be loving. Like a mother bear. Like, you do not mess with my children. You do not send my young men to war to have them be killed. You do not do that.
Yes.
And, there are more and more and more women up for election. If we women just stood together, we could elect not just women, because Hillary wouldn't have done it.
Right.
It would have been more of life as it were, and also some having to pay the good old boys to even get where she was. So, we had to do something very different. But right now, there are women out there running for Senate seats and mayorships and governorships who are caring, nurturing women who want to figure out about our health, our well-being, our peacefulness, our harmonious living, our sustainable living, all of those things. So get behind them. We have such enormous power.
Mm-hmm. Well, our power was galvanized with a global march in direct response to the election of Trump, who was the quote-unquote pussy grabber. And the enormous power that welled up from women, not just in the United States, but across the world. 69 countries, I think it was, 70 countries. And it was a peaceful march. Women were happy and joyful. I've heard many reports about it, stories. They shared food. They shared pictures of their children. It was a very joyous march, and yet it was in fierce response to the misogyny and the disrespect of women, and the need for us to come together in our collective power of the feminine. Yeah.
Exactly. Hey, and speaking of the collective power of the feminine, I want to tell you something that still blows my mind. When women are in contact with the moon, meaning their eyes are in contact with the moon, not city lights, not this, not that, not reading on the calendar, it's moon time, but in contact with the moon, the bleeding happens. And this would have been the case all across the world before we did all the lights here in the last 100 years. All across the world, women were triggered to bleed at the very same time, which meant that women all around the world were in their moon lodges, resting, healing, and praying for their people, vision for their people at the very same time. All around the world. Can you imagine the energy of that? I can't even hardly. It's like, wow, that's just stunning.
Yeah, it is.
So all these wisdom women that have been developed over all the years, and all the orientation toward that great feminine. So it's just really remarkable, and that's the kind of thing we can do again. Each time we step forward in a good and loving and nurturing way, we'll make a difference. And some of it is that I think eventually guys are going to get that it feels so good to be nurtured, because in a nurturing society, in a feminine matrifocal society, not only are women and children nurtured, that's the idea, is to take care of everybody, get everybody what they need. Make sure that everyone is taken care of. And in those societies, I'd like to see more of this in our lives. They were matrifocal. The women were the ones that the lineage came down from, very obvious. When that baby pops out, my gosh, you know who the mother is. And that line, and also then the grandmothers and the women held the property and the resources. They were theirs. And so that taking care of that solidity, that constancy of a place where women and children and everyone then could be nurtured was primary, vital. And so everybody's going to love it. When people finally cut loose of the craziness and the meanness and all those stupid, angry, hateful, warring, destructive things, they're going to figure out how nice it feels to live in a society caring and nurturing and connection and honoring and reverence and sweetness and beauty. Oh my gosh, come on, let's go.
It's right there. It's right there. There's nothing stopping us, really.
Yeah.
Not really.
And
you're bringing through the fact that the men are going to benefit from this. That this is, if women are in leadership and women are held at the center, if it's matrifocal, they're of course going to want to care for their sons. All men are sons of a mother, so it's not alienating to men. It's inclusive of men for all, like you've been saying, for all.
Yes, it really feels wonderful, and I think more and more we need to find ways to invite men to be their best self, just in every way we can, by honoring and acknowledging them. Their hormones are set up so that when they accomplish something and are praised for it, it gives them the energy and the hormones they need. So finding ways to praise and to bring forth and to ask of men their best, to honor it. There was a tradition among tribal people where, let's say, a mom and her daughter or daughters were there working around their home fire outside the teepee, and somebody came by, and a young man came by, And just loud enough so that he could hear, the mother would say to her daughters, "Now there's a fine man. He takes care of his family. He takes care of the elders. He's brave and courageous and loving and kind and good. I hope that's the kind of man you get." So, and when another kind of guy came by, they'd say, "Daughters, turn your backs. This man is unkind to his children and his wife. He is stingy. He is cowardly. Turn your backs. This is not the kind of man you want to interact with." Tell you, talk about powerful, that had some power.
Yeah,
and so
and the young women really need that today, that's for sure. That's not happening.
So what we invite forth, what we call forward in our land is so good, because like when the Inflamed Pussy Grabber did that, and it was on TV. People going, "Yeah, men, blah blah blah," and there were, there's 100 million, thousand, jillion men standing up and saying, "Excuse me, that's not me. I honor and respect the feminine. I honor and respect my family and my children, my daughters, my wife." I had the inspiration yesterday of sitting in the hot pools here where I'm staying, and a young man, I don't know, maybe he was 35, came, and he was working on regenerating the soil of the earth, something called terragenesis. And so we were so excited talking about the possibilities, because both of us had studied with Bill Mollison, the permaculture genius. And we just had such a wonderful time talking about the land and renewing the land and all of that. And he said something to me that was so sweet, it makes me feel like crying. He said, I was talking about the rising of the great feminine and all this, telling him, and he was so interested. And he looked at me in the eye, a little bit teary-eyed himself, and he said, my mom, I honor my mom so much. She just feeds and nurtures and asks of me to be the good man that I can be. He said, I don't know what I would do without her. Whew. I just was so thrilled. I was so thrilled with that kind of energy. And, that's going to come forward more and more and more, especially as we teach our young boys to remember and honor the feminine. And even in shamanic circles, the old ones will talk to the young apprentices about learning that deep, rich, creatrix feminine. Because let me tell you this too. In the beginning of all things. It's hard to say in English even, but at the beginning was the great, great, great void, the deep, dark womb of all possibility. Every possibility was there, but it was not yet manifest. That deep womb, the great mother's womb.
Mm-hmm.
And in our way, I call that white buffalo woman's womb, and it looks in a way to me like the starry sky on a night when there's no moon and you can see every star, and it's just, you're out and away from lights, and it's just deep, dark, beautiful, shining, starry, millions, billions going forever of lights. I think of that. And out of that dark void, then light was called, all these beautiful starry lights, and all of that then brought forward light and life and aliveness, and it birthed the whole of things. In the Lakota way, that womb of all things is called Wakan. Wakan. So that's the beginning. And then in the Lakota way, lightning, the masculine, reached in, touched one of those stars, and brought it down and brought it onto earth. Just as the great egg is waiting, and a sperm touches it, a tiny little sperm touches it, awakens it, and then birthed into the world is this amazing new human being. So those two forces acting, but to remember that the beginning, the thing that holds all of it, including the light of the masculine, is the great feminine, is the great womb of all life and all creation. And the other thing that I really want people to remember is that great creatrix, great mother energy lives in you, that's who you are, that's where you came from, that's what you've been given. In the spiritual books, they say you were made in the image of your creator. Well, interestingly enough, your creator, your creatrix, was this great, great, great loving, nurturing wholeness. And those qualities were given to you. So women, certainly, we need to remember ourselves in a sense as the goddess. We are the goddess alive. She looks through our eyes into the world, and if we can open ourselves to that deep, rich, powerful, nurturing energy, she speaks through us into the world. She works through our arms and hands into the world. So to empower ourselves by remembering ourselves as the great mother, as the goddess. She lives in us as us. And I think we need that empowerment. We need all the empowerment we can get because, as I say to women in my classes, you probably try to take care of yourself a little bit, maybe run, hike a little, or whatever you do, go down to the gym. Then, oh, gee, there's the house to take care of, or your apartment, or whatever you have. And then, oh, my gosh, maybe you have children. They're just a little bit of work and effort and energy. Then, oh, a relationship. You probably have a relationship or many, with a partner and family and all of that. So you need to take care of all that and handle that. And then, gosh, there's working. Some of you work half-time, whole-time, full-time work, and then have to handle all the rest of that. So there's all of those things that you're handling as women. And then I remind them kind of teasingly, both the good and the bad news is that now you need to save the world.
Yeah, okay, right.
Okay, I'm already overwhelmed. And that's why things like our moon time, the healing that takes place there, working with other women to build our oxytocin, and one of the wonderful things about the hormone oxytocin that we get in many different ways, including good sex, that energy is de-stressing. Now, one of the challenges with the overwhelm that many women feel now is that stress literally causes them to weaken, and their weakest point will blow out. And because of pollution and all of the kind of bad food and all the things that are going on in the world, there are points of stress that bring up cancer and many other kinds of things. So women need to begin to choose, consciously to choose to do some of these things and to work together with women to do all of those kinds of things, to bring their energy together around the moon time, to rest, all of those things, because we just need every bit of energy we can get now as we're literally facing the kind of ending explosion of this patriarchal energy to stand firm and clear and loving and energetic and capable in these times. We need all of the energy we can get. And I really suggest as well that women make a little altar, make a special space to honor this great, great, great mother, this great creatrix, this loving, nurturing, birthing, caring, renewing of life, this energy. Make a little altar and go there. Give honor to that and also ask for help. Ask for nurturance. Ask for support. Ask for what you need. Because that great energy is there for us now, and more and more. We want to shine as the foremothers of a whole new time on earth. And I know we can. I just feel so joyful about women and who we are and what's possible for us. And as well our awakening, because going back to the political scene, when many, many women voted the way they did, and the person got into the presidency that did, I thought to myself, that is a statement about how many women have been abused and are used to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so as we awaken from that, as we remember ourselves, as we really support the feminine, I got a kick out of it because I thought Bernie was the most feminine one in the whole bunch. You know,
Yeah.
that getting people together, letting the people speak, all of that was this wonderful nurturing energy. So to recognize that energy where it is and to go toward that and to support it. So all of these things I think will be supportive and nurturing as we step into this new time. You know, I'm supposed to be around a long time. I've been told that from 90 to 120, I will help rebuild the feminine temples on Earth in the Americas. And
wow, that's a wonderful vision. So be it.
So, yes. So I see a time coming when that's going to be so golden and radiant and flowering and beautiful for everyone. And we just need to keep walking forward into that and calling more and more, recognizing more and more that great feminine energy that is so supportive and loving and right there for us.
You've painted a picture, Brooke. Of course, this is the four mothers of women's spirituality as of from the 70s and 80s. You are painting the picture of us now, women today, being the four mothers of the vision that you have spoken, that you see for humanity. And I love that picture. And you've given us the how to tap into it, how to move forward. And I think it's an encouragement, a vision that is absolutely essential for us to deal with the times as they are. It's what an incredibly rich hour that you have given us. I really appreciate it. I feel it myself because I can feel the discouragement, the anger, the judgment, the oh my goodness, look what's going on. And to be reminded that there's a bigger picture and that there is a way to deal with it, and it is through love and kindness and ferocity where it is needed, and to come together as women who are the ones that are going to be the saving grace of the world. As we come to a closing, is there anything else that you would like to say, anything you would like to add to this before go ahead.
There are two things. I got so excited in the beginning that I wanted to share a song with people, and I wanted to say a beginning prayer. And I also have a song I'd like to end with and a short prayer to say. But I'll just reiterate two things. One, remember this great mother, creatrix, goddess energy that birthed you and all things, and that you are that you are the goddess in the world, that you, as you open to this energy, make that altar, say your prayers, bring through this energy, you are the goddess walking in the world. And also, just a reminder that this is a time of cleansing, and every loving movement, every kind, every feminine, relating, connecting, loving, nurturing, feeding, singing, beauty, all of these things, every single one of those acts builds and counts. So your life really counts. Your heart and your beauty really count, and you have a lot of it. I'm going to sing you a song, a woman's healing song. It comes from Native women of old, and I feel like it's the grandmother energy, the great mother energy singing to us, a healing, whole, holy song. Nave Hai, Nave Hai, Nave Hai, Nave Hai, Hele Kehelang Ku. Hele kahe lang ku na be no one. So, Great Mother, I hold this vulture feather as I say this prayer. You, Great One, who are the wholeness, who are all potential, everything that ever was, ever is now, and ever will be. You who are love, you who are birthing, you who are nurturing and regenerating. We speak from the heart of you inside of us to the heart of the void and ask for support and nurture it. In this time when women are carrying so much, bless them, Mother. Bless them, Great Mother. Give them what they need to heal from any kind of dis-ease, and especially to just feel good, to feel strong, to feel happy, to feel supported. Let them have this, please, that they might walk forward with the incredible kind of beauty that they know how to walk forward with when they gather, loving and nurturing and helping and caring for each other and singing songs and sharing and offering food. And bless them, and bless the feminine, all men. May the true warrior masculine, which not only knows how to move forward powerfully in a masculine way, but does it in service of the people. Let that energy be nurtured in men, and let us as women find ways to more and more call that forward in the beautiful men around us, so that we all walk forward, men, women, children, hand in hand, all around the world. We walk forward into this time of beauty and peace and flowering and richness and abundance in the true meaning of the word. Thriving. That is your energy, Mother, Great Mother. And we're so thankful. We're thankful for our lives. We're thankful for this rising feminine. We're thankful. Thank you, Vajra Ma. We're thankful for all of those who have stepped forward before and all those who will follow. May all life be blessed. Ho, Mitakyas, and all my relations.
O Mitakyas. So be it. Blessed be. Thank you, Brooke the Medicine Eagle. Thank you so much. I hold that prayer with you.
Love to all. Love to all.
To all, yes. I encourage our listeners to get in touch with your work, to look at the text that accompanies this. You'll find contact information and links to connect, and to take your online course of the Moon Time. I encourage women to do that. Thank you so much, and we will say goodbye for now and blessings to all.